Archimex login confirmed.
Welcome to the Lodge. You've accessed
the Lodgecast experience.
Warning, warning. Dangerous spoilers ahead. Enjoy.
The Lodgecast is a little podcast where we watch weird movies, so you don't have to.
The Lodgecast, baby.
Lodgecast, gonna smoke this. Lodgecast, missing movie pass. Lodgecast.
We're gonna watch some crap.
Lodgecast.
And then the Lodge Master chats.
With Lucas and Bishki.
Episode 84. Gretel and Hansel.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lodgecast. I'm your Lodge Master. With me as always is Brother Bishki.
Good evening.
Brother Lucas in the back.
Welcome.
We have the Lodge Mistress with us tonight
So pleased to be here.
for fairy tale time.
Yes.
And we have the one, the only BFF.
I love my BFF.
I love you, Lucas.
Can you believe we got the BFF on tonight?
I tricked him into doing it. I was like, we can just watch it. You don't have to do any recording. And then as soon as we parked, I was like, you're going in the edge.
I love it.
But we
I
had some
love it.
really sweet drinks at Islands.
We did.
Ooh.
We got loose.
He got me a little lubed up.
I like it. I like it. Lucas, keep doing what you're doing. Keep booking these high caliber guests. Take them to islands. Take them wherever you need to take them.
Well, he was telling me about tonight's filmmaker's tonight's film's director, if I can talk.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about this.
Tonight's movie is Gretel and Hansel. Gretel is
Wait
first.
a minute. I thought it was Hansel and Gretel.
No.
It's
It's
This is,
2020.
yeah,
and
2020. That's what I was
Hansel.
going to say.
We got to switch it.
And what did we find out about this filmmaker?
Well, his name is Oz Perkins, and he is the son of Anthony Perkins.
What?
Oh.
And
Game
he's
changer.
made a handful of he's made two features, one of which I don't think is available to be watched anywhere. The other I've seen, I think it's called The Black Coat's Daughter, and it's not bad.
Okay.
It's not bad at all. So I was definitely he's always been on my radar in terms of like what he was doing next. And so the preview to this looked pretty good.
I like that you're keeping an eye on Anthony Perkins' son for us.
I mean,
That's great.
for the record, our Lodge Master's father suggested we add this screening
Oh,
to
yes.
the Lodgecast docket. And when Lodge Master notified Bishki and I kind of was like taken aback in a way because I didn't know anything about this movie.
Having reservations about going to a movie? That can't be.
And no, but the problem is I was taken aback because I was like, wait a minute, why is the Lodge Master's dad recommending like Hansel and Gretel witch hunters bullshit? Like, I don't want to see these reboot bullshit, IP, whatever.
And
then the irony is Brother Bishki and I went with the BFF to see Color Out of Space, and they showed this trailer of Gretel and Hansel.
and you got sprung.
And it was like a 4-bone trailer. Like literally when the trailer ended, I turned to Bishki and I was like, wow. We doing it.
Definitely had a Tarsum quality about it. the trailer.
Tarsum.
Yeah.
Dropping some Tarsum. The Cell. What was the other one? The Fall?
The Fall.
Yes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Immortals. Can't forget Immortals.
Immortals.
Oh,
If
that's
anybody out
right.
there listening is not familiar with the films of Tarsum Singh, do yourself several favors.
He is legit. He's like the intellectual, smarter, quieter Michael Bay.
Wow.
Sure.
That is that is damning with the faintest of praise. So tonight, what are we expecting? Lodge Mistress, the pump is primed for you on this one. I mean,
Yeah.
you are soaked in fairy tale mythos.
As well as dark fairy tale mythos.
Yes.
So I'm excited.
You would make a great witch, just for the record.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Lucas. He always
yeah.
says the sweetest things.
Yeah.
So what you said earlier to me today that your criteria for this being a quote unquote good movie is likely different from our criteria and likely different from most people on the planet. What do you need to have happen? Like, what aspects of this need to be in place for you to be pleased?
Let me tell you, there needs to be some great gingerbread house food kind of candiness.
I don't know if
that
there's going to be a
is-
gingerbread house. That might be asking too
Really?
much, but
There's no food.
hey, listen, I
There
don't
might
know.
be. There might
It's
be.
in the tail.
I would like that. I would like a great a witch Gretel standoff scene. You know what
Okay.
I mean? I want there to be magic. I want there to be darkness. I want there to be some great shots. And I'd like Gretel to be very smart.
You want a smart Gretel.
I
Yeah.
think they already got 90% of this correct by casting this very specific actress that we all know and
Yeah.
love as the witch, whose name I forget,
God,
but
I
once
love
you
her
see
too.
her, you'll
Alice
recognize.
Krige?
Yes.
Yeah, she's
1,000
great.
times yes.
Ever since Stephen King's Sleepwalkers, she's been deeply on my radar, on my
Dude,
scare
I've got
radar.
a weird attraction to
Yeah, because she's
her.
sexy as well
Yeah.
as
Scary.
she's powerful, scary,
Yes.
sexy. I'm with it, Lucas. I
Yes.
Was that her in Ghost Story, like that old 80s movie?
I
Yeah,
think
was that
so.
her?
I think
yeah,
so.
Yeah, with the old guys.
Yes.
Reminiscent. Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
yeah.
the first penis I ever saw on
Oh.
screen.
Wow. Mine was Harvey Keitel's in Bad Lieutenant
Many years later.
NC-17.
Mine was my dad's.
On screen?
On screen.
Sure.
We'll leave it at that. Brother Bishke, what's the first penis you saw on screen?
Probably Tom Cruise in All the Right Moves.
Ooh.
Ooh.
And what do you want from this movie?
I'm just along for the ride. I don't know much. I've never seen this guy's work. I don't know any of the actors, even the ones you guys when you mentioned. I guess I saw Sleepwalkers, but I'm just along for the ride at the Burbank 6
The 6.
The Moonlight
on the
6.
Wednesday.
The Underground 6.
They better fucking project it right. This
I know it's
theater,
going to be dark, so
Very dim.
this
Yeah.
Very
theater's so
soft.
dim.
Yeah, and it's a dark movie, so we'll see.
We'll try not to hold that against it. Let's just imagine it proper brightness.
Yeah.
Let's go in and be told a 2020 fairy tale, Gretel and Hansel.
Brothers Grimm.
Well, way down yonder in the deep blue harbor. Yeah, way back in the swamp where the snakes go crawling. Shriveled old lady with a tombstone mouth, scaring up trouble at the haunted house. Flying across the moon on a big old stick. Everybody afraid of the wicked old witch. When the sun goes down and the moon get high, you can hear her cackling out in the night. Well, the sinners and gamblers and gunslingers too, everybody scatter when the witch come through. High across the moon on a big old stick, everybody afraid of the wicked old witch.
Retrieve the saws from the shed, sharpen them on the bones of the dead. We're back.
Yo.
Oh, before we get into it,
What's that shot?
From Rotten Tomatoes. A long time ago, in a distant fairy tale countryside, a young girl leads her little brother into a dark wood in desperate search of food and work, only to stumble upon a nexus of terrifying evil.
short and sweet.
Yep.
That's a nice short
thank
schnapps.
God.
So that was a weird one.
Very
Yeah.
hyper stylized. Reminded me of like
Yeah.
early Tony Scott cinematography. Very smoky.
Lot
Yeah.
of lot of
Very
bright colored lights.
Color palettes and different scenes.
What do you think
Very-
of that mannequin stand, babe?
Very symmetrical.
Listen, there's a lot there's a lot and not a lot to get to here because the tale is very simple and it is most decidedly old as time with a few key updates. It begins with the standard setup, which is Hansel and Gretel have to leave their home.
Gretel and Hansel.
Gretel and Hansel have to leave their home and they're out in the wood and they eventually happen upon a cabin. But the recurring theme is, I'm hungry. I'm looking for some cake. I need to eat. And she tries to find work at a brothel where
I don't think that was a brothel, babe.
you don't? Well, then what was up with the sex noises in the
There was
background?
moaning, right?
right.
There were like
Right,
weird
okay.
She
moaning.
went to seek housekeeping work, but it was a ruse.
Right.
And
She didn't go there thinking it was a brothel.
No. And she left when she found out what it was. And so we start this theme of Gretel, standing up for herself and following her own path. Even her mom wanted her to acquiesce and work at the brothel, but she says no. She's like, we're going to strike out on our own. They go out. They're so hungry, they find some mushrooms.
Some like Super Mario Brothers.
Super Mario Brothers. And the mushrooms start talking to her, and she's like, oh, they say we may as well eat them. And I thought that sequence was pretty effective.
It was great because it's a shot of her like nibbling it and her brother's nibbling it, and it's just a hard smash cut to them just losing their balls,
watching
like,
a little boy just tripping.
And it's genius because they're laughing at first, but then like the trip kind of turns on them, and they start to get a little spooked.
Yep.
And then the kid kind of like wanders off to a tree as if to collect himself or vomit or something. And there's something so real, yeah.
I thought he was puking. So we have puking, peeing, and miscellaneous.
It was disturbing to see the child on mushrooms.
I wasn't disturbed. I was like, this is great. I'd never seen that before.
I was a little disturbed.
And he was young. He looked like maybe he was 9 or 8.
So what did you guys think thus far? Because there's before they reach the witch's cabin and after.
Well, it was interesting because in the original fairy tale, right, the parents were kind of mean.
Right.
Or at least the dad had some regrets. But the stepmother really, she was the one that wanted them gone because there was like a famine or whatever. And so it was interesting that.
But don't breadcrumbs play into the fairy tale? I couldn't remember.
And pebbles. The first night, what the fairy tale is, the Grimm's fairy tale, the dad gets convinced by the stepmother to lead the children in the woods, and the kids overhear it. And so the first night, Hansel gets some pebbles from outside, and so he like strews those along, and then when the moon comes out, they can find their way back home. The next night, the mom locks the door so he can't get outside, so then he has bread and he crumbles all the crumbs, but they can't get back that night because the birds ate all the crumbs.
Got it. Because the other thing I thought I remembered was that the witch's cabin was made of gingerbread.
It was for sure.
Or candy.
I knew that wasn't
bread and candy and sugared windows.
But in the first half, I was just mesmerized by the shot compositions and the aesthetic.
Wasn't it 4:3 aspect
It
ratio?
was. It was like the lighthouse, like Robert Eggers is the first thing I thought of with a little bit of the witch thrown in there.
Because initially when the previews were playing, I'm like, their matting is all wonky on this screen. Leave it to the 6. But then when the movie started, it was 4:3, and I'm like, oh, they must have had to leave it like this because the screen is practically square, which I thought was interesting. I mean, anything to bring a special funk to this, it's great that they do it. The color scheme, the music, I thought was great.
Yeah, and the location too was like just out of a fairy tale. I kept thinking like, the leaves were so yellow. I was like, did they paint those leaves? Yeah. Is it a trick? Like, or are those actual natural, like, forestry fall colors in some part of the world I'm not familiar with?
Well, it felt like all the pieces were pretty much in place for me. The only problem is, and I don't know, I want to know what you guys think. The acting from the kids was just not selling it for me. It wasn't doing it for me.
I like the girl from It.
You didn't think she was totally just like wooden?
It was more of the dialogue that I had a problem with.
That's the thing. What's the balance there?
And the kid, the younger kid, his line deliveries of those lines was just not quite syncing up.
What does the backseat feel about this?
I thought the weird accents were throwing me off. Everybody was in their own accent world. And then
they're all in fairy tale
maybe
accent
that's because
world.
He's doing this weird anachronistic sort of style. Like, so he's trying to make everything a little out of place. But it made them feel like they were not related to me, and so I don't know. But I did think they had chemistry, but I did think they were wooden at the same time.
It's a little stilted, and I appreciated the colloquialism or lexicon of the words spoken, but it was like either the delivery or the mix. It's like if you're not paying attention, it could be mumbling. Like it all could just
mumbly.
could all just be murmur sugar
Yeah.
and then murmur sugar, and you're like, wait, what are they talking about? And if you're not totally
Or
You're not
focused,
totally
subtitled.
dialed
yeah,
in.
because in the first early going, I kind of wish there was subtitles
too.
because there's so much dialogue and exposition. You're like, wait a second, hold up, slow down.
Well, especially when after the mushroom trip, they come across the witch's dwelling and we meet the witch, and she's like full Irish or something. Like, where was her accent from?
They were all different. Even the Lord at the brothel had a different accent.
Oh, he was on a different planet. Yeah, but they finally get to the witch's cabin, and there's some great shots setting that up where Gretel's looking through this little peephole, and we see the other side. We see her eye with a nice triangle, seeing eye triangle around it. Just some amazing shot compositions.
I thought the witch's cabin was very well designed.
The exterior and
this
interior were
weird
very,
A-frame,
very
and,
interesting.
and like weird
Mandy-esque.
windows and like a small tiny deck.
and like jet
And
black.
It was odd. It was definitely. It felt surreal.
BFF, what are you thinking at this point? I really want to know.
Well, I don't know that I mean, I within 10 minutes, I got a little nervous, to be honest with you.
Sure.
I found, all the things you guys are talking about, like the acting, the dialogue, and I would say like just the form in general, up and down, it just is like, this is coming off monotone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it is? This is what it is. It's that every scene feels like it's the middle of a scene.
Interesting.
There's, and that's the problem with the movie. Essentially, it doesn't ever feel like there's a beginning, middle, of end, or
the
anything.
whole
It's just
movie's the middle of a movie.
the whole movie is the mid. Like every scene, there's no entrance into a scene. It's the middle of a scene, and
Yeah.
especially once you get to the house, which is ostensibly the second act. I feel like you could watch it again and sort of cut those scenes and mix them together, and it really wouldn't make much of a
You
difference.
really could.
I could see
There's
that.
zero connective tissue whatsoever
That's true.
throughout the film, and so for an 80-minute movie, it just
Because you're
kinda
right.
drags.
Because you're right. If you're not totally paying attention, like I was, because I did kind of nod off.
Did you nod off or did you zone out?
I nodded off for like
Oh,
maybe
Bishki,
5 or 10
Why
minutes.
aren't you watching this?
I
boy?
saw him on his side, but I assumed he was like. I assumed
no,
he was like
but-
unsettled or something. I don't know.
But no, but it's true because like it is kind of one note. Like my BFF was saying, if you're not paying total attention and you just take your eyes off the screen for a moment, you might get lost because boom, the next scene you're so far ahead in time or something's happening and you're like, wait a second, where are we now? Like, oh my god, she's in the basement doing this. Like,
Well,
when did she get down there? Like, they don't show any shoe leather.
Well,
really.
the problem is there's no shoe leather because it's dream shoe leather. And
Yes.
the whole
There's
the
some
whole,
dream sequences
the
throughout.
whole time they're in the cabin, it's kind of like a drug trip. Like you don't know if you're dreaming or awake. A lot of this reminded me of Phantasm, where it's like, very limited sets. There's a lot of spelunking around, looking at weird stuff, entering giant weird rooms where you don't really know what the rules are. And like the BFF said, there's like 9 times where she wakes up in her bed and looks over at this fucking hairless cat after having a weird dream. And you could just mix and match those. It once they get off the road and we stop having a literal journey, we don't know where we are. We're just treading water in this witch's cabin for so long
Yeah.
that I don't know.
There's not a lot of tension.
The movie's
There's
daring you to doze off.
Momentum less.
I don't know. I mean, story wise, I did not really care about what was going on, and or I almost appreciated it more because it was kind of unsettling because it was just like, what is going on? But visually, I was very on board for this film.
It was such a tarsome joint visually. Like,
Visual feast, but I felt like halfway through, I just couldn't help but think of Robert Eggers and The Witch, and I was like,
Sure.
man.
and how much better that
I know.
movie
It's like
is.
you beat him to it. It's like it lands so much harder, and this just kind of, it just feels.
I was thinking Mandy a lot.
the music was
the
very
score.
amazing.
The score was definitely.
But
and a lot
Mandy
of
is
visual.
much more dynamic than
No,
this.
I
too.
agree. I
mean,
agree. Yeah. It's chasing those things, but it's not on par with the great Mandy.
I
in
really
Lighthouse.
think if the kids were more dialed in, like say what you will about the script is only going so far with this, but especially Gretel, if there was actual like you believed that she was either panicked or becoming empowered. Like, it's all flatline. It's all the same. And the voiceover is like it's a first cold read or something. It's
Voiceover does not work in this movie, unfortunately.
It doesn't.
And like from the opening, the cold open, like, yeah, visually I was so on board. But as soon as they just start hitting us with this, backstory, like exposition, there's so much to compute and digest. It's like you're not.
Just let us look at it.
Yeah, I know. It's like
fine.
let me like get into this as opposed to you explaining to me how the witch got sent into the forest, which is then a twist by the end where it's like it's not the witch you thought it was, it's the witch's daughter.
Which
and it's like
at that point you don't really care.
It doesn't land. It doesn't land.
But what allegedly happened to the girl in the pink cap? I mean, I thought she must have been about still.
She got eaten.
She got eaten by her mom.
Oh, you think the mother ate her?
Yeah. When she like leads her into both of the kids into the little,
and the red smoke comes out of the chimney. That was nice.
I thought that those were just like extra kids.
I thought those were other kids. Yeah,
not her daughter.
I thought first she ate her kids and then she ate a bunch of other kids.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
I think she. Yeah,
it's almost as if, despite the movie being visually interesting, it does not know how to describe exactly what it wants you to see.
Yeah, and suffice it to say, kid eating is a theme, and I gotta invoke the salad dragon for a certain special part.
The Salad Dragon. A scene in a movie that is so bizarre, baffling, or transcendent that it instantly justifies the price of admission. Or Reese Witherspoon's leafy transformation in A Wrinkle in Time.
Now, I was awake for the salad dragon because Bishki came back from the restroom and woke me up.
Bishki came back from the restroom just in time.
Yeah.
I thought for sure you were going to miss it.
He bumped into me and I startled awake because I didn't know where I was for a second. And it's like, yeah, I didn't know if it was a dream sequence or if it was actually happening. But it's like this huge, high-ceilinged white room with like white 50-foot tall curtains.
It's crazy.
And like a table.
It's also like got modern brick walls and a modern brick pipe.
Sure.
And
I thought.
And Alice Krige, who plays the old spooky witch, can like look young, like her younger, former, like super sexy, tatted up self.
She's something out of Glenn Danzig's Veronica as a younger self.
A hot goth.
And just so we can stop for a second and back up for a minute. So when the kids come upon the witch's cabin the first time and they look in the window, they see like a smorgasbord of food. Like tons of food.
It's their dream come true.
Like
in food
every
form.
kind of bangarang from Hook.
and-
Yeah, like a pig with an apple in its mouth.
Total bangarang.
And Gretel asks the witch, like, where do you get all this stuff from? And the witch is kind of like being coy and being like, oh, you'll see, like, you don't worry about it or whatever. And then finally,
the food's not as it seems.
Right.
And them kids chow down.
They chow down.
Oh, they chow down.
So this is a dream sequence, or so we think, where Gretel walks into this giant room. Veronica, version of the witch, is there, and she basically takes a barrel of kid limbs and innards and just
it's nuts,
dumps
nuts.
it all over this table.
Holocaust imagery.
And she takes out an extra chubby little arm just as a garnish on top and lays it on top. And then she weaves a spell and all of these kid parts congeal into the smorgasbord.
Yes.
And it is a sight to behold. Like, if all of the dream sequences could have had a little dash of this, the movie might have hit a little harder. But as it is, we get this one glorious sequence, which, holy shit, I'm not going to forget that.
The movie's PG-13.
Is
it?
It
It is.
Yeah, that's what's
And I'm like,
gnarly.
and I'm kind of like,
that's gnarly.
I didn't know that.
it was kind of on the border.
Gnarly.
I couldn't quite tell, but I looked it up. But I couldn't. Yeah, it's a PG-13
Dude,
movie.
PG-13 when an old man asks a minor, are you intact?
And like a zombie gets an arrow through his head.
Can we talk about
Yeah,
that?
that's
Talk about
another.
the
Wait a second.
zombie.
Yeah.
So was
Yes,
that the
there's a lot we
monastery?
missed.
Like, where were they going?
Okay.
Like, what was that place?
On their journey,
and what the fuck happened?
On their journey, they stop off briefly at this house.
The widow's house.
The widow's house. And they take refuge in this room with an upside-down cross on the wall.
Which no one makes note of,
Nope.
but I clocked it immediately.
They lay down
But it's
on these
probably
beds. And then suddenly, this Uncle Fester-looking zombie dude sits up and just goes, and they run outside and tussle with him. And then suddenly...
No, it's worse than that. They run outside and he gets to Hansel. Like, he tackles the boy. Like,
It's a tussle.
But it's terrifying. I mean, the kid is
terrifying
like, he's like,
tussle.
get him off me,
Does she
Gretel,
poke his eye out with?
No,
can't tell what
it's hard
something
to
to
see.
him.
No. She throws something at him that distracts him, and he like looks up at her, about to like.
His eye gets
No.
fucked up.
She beans him in the face.
Oh, that's right. She knocks his eye out, but
Yeah.
then he gets an arrow through the head. That's what it was.
So an arrow comes flying through his head. She has to move her head slightly to dodge it. And there's like a dude, the man of the house. Like, what's going on there?
He was a
ranger.
huntsman.
He was a huntsman. That's
Yeah.
right.
Oh, okay.
And he was great. I wish there was more of him.
But he was in the house.
Yeah, so
Right?
what was the deal?
Oh no, I
there?
thought that was
No,
his
he
house.
wasn't-
I think he rescued
yeah,
them and then
yeah,
took
he-
them back to his place.
No,
But again,
because all right, the arrow goes through the guy's face. She dodges. The zombie falls, and he's like in the doorway
in
to
the
the house
doorway.
where
He
they came
looked
from.
like he was in the doorway, but I don't think he actually was. I mean,
I thought he and the zombie lived together and had an understanding, and shit just came to a boil. I was very confused by that whole
It's
thing.
almost as if the movie does know how to construct images to give us information we need.
that I think is correct. Because it was like, then you were like, what is the point of this man? Because he then,
he was gonna I thought he was gonna rescue them, and
Well-
he never came back.
Well, he sent them into the woods to find the woods people or something.
He's to the
Foresters.
foresters.
Foresters, yeah.
where I guess the
So
little.
Viggo Mortensen from Fellowship.
But my question was he actually sending them to the foresters, or was he sending them to the witch?
No, he was a good guy.
Yeah,
They
that's
just ate the
sense of it.
mushroom and got distracted, and he said, "Don't stray from the path," and they like ate the mushrooms.
Oh, and then you think they got distracted.
But I honestly thought in the beginning, because Gretel and Hansel's mom was so crazy pushing them
Right,
out, I was
right.
like, oh, I bet the witch like poisoned her brain, and then later they're gonna find out that like the witch was the one that made their mom. And like, nope, like no.
There's a lot of things that just didn't connect that, don't need to, but then why have them in there, Just kind
Right.
It kind of annoys
Because he was like
you.
providing this sort of like through line of the theme of like, oh, you can give without having something be taken. You can give just to give.
Right.
But then the theme seemed to be, no, you can't just give to give. You have to have something taken. Or was that what the final consensus
Well,
was?
the final turn is that Gretel is a witch herself in training, and the witch is kind of helping her discover her powers.
like Lost Boys, like it's only noodles, Gretel.
Exactly. So what is that stick? Is that like the witch's broom?
Yes.
Kind of
It's
thing?
like
Yes.
a wand, like a large staff.
It's a giant staff.
But it
that-
looks like one of those like tuning forks or
Yes.
something.
And
Yeah.
Gretel can use her mind. They rub this salve on their hands, which I guess enhances their witchiness. And Gretel can make it like stand up like it's an erection.
Like
And-
using the Force, like Luke
it's
Skywalker
total
or
Force.
Rey.
And she can also bend trees, and you can tell that she's like
yeah,
starting
could
to.
she just control wood?
That's a great question.
I don't know.
I don't know that.
But she's got a witch's broom, which she never rides.
There's no writing of it. There's no explanation
She's
of
got
what
a
it
shovel
is.
she digs holes with, which I wasn't sure about.
So basically, via narration, she says, I have to outsmart the witch, but I can't let her know that I am onto her. And then she proceeds to be the sketchiest individual with the witch. The witch is like, wind was howling quite a bit last night. All you got to do, Gretel, is be like, hell yeah. But she's like, I had noticed. It's like, what are you doing? Anyway, she poisons the witch's tea. The witch drinks the tea, knows it's poisoned, and they kind of have a stare down. And
Again, nothing happens.
nothing happens, and it all comes down to a showdown down back in the big old white room where Hansel's in a trance.
In a timeout, he's staring at the wall.
He's
in a timeout.
He's in eternal timeout. Glenn Danzig
It's a
mode
greasy
witch
timeout.
is down there, and she tells Hansel to kiss his sister goodnight and go climb up into this cage that's above this fire. It's all very convoluted.
He could just step on the fire.
He could
It'd be
just
a lot quicker.
I thought she's like, it's time to go to bed. I thought maybe there was a bed frame in the fire or something.
Oh yeah, why did he? I guess that was just like they wanted him in a cage.
It
'cause
was
he
just
in
a
a
cool.
cage
It
in
was
the
just a
fairy
cool.
tale?
It was a cool image because there's a ladder up to the cage, which is like a good 20 to 30 feet above the fire.
and
but
they
I-
got to draw it out.
But I guess
Yeah.
the
They do have to
fire
draw it
grows
out.
stronger and the flames grow higher. But we never really get to
Oh,
that.
We
That's
never
interesting.
get to that
That's interesting.
because
I didn't know that.
Gretel wakes up her boner staff.
Well, she's got salve on her head because it was all covering her brother, and that's how she rubbed it on her hands because I guess it only works if it's on your hands.
Salve transfer. And then she force throws the staff at the witch,
Finish her.
and it's a fatality. It kind of pins her by the throat to the wall above the flames.
and she's neutralized instantly. Like there's no
Instantly.
There's
Yeah,
there's no battle. There's no Willow where
The
the,
flame
witches are
turns
fighting back and
blue.
forth.
I was kind of glad.
Yeah, I was ready for the movie to be over, so I was like, okay, good.
The
we're
flame
done.
turns blue, and then she just, instead of the witch fighting back, Gretel like turns up the heat a bit more to finish her quicker. And then she's done. And then dumb old Hansel's like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. And then he kind of just wakes up in his bed, and we're in the morning, and it's just like another dream sequence. And that's pretty much it. Hansel's like, what are you afraid of? The world? And she's like, no, I'm afraid of myself. And so they go their separate ways.
Yeah. Why is she just gonna let her brother just take off?
I don't know.
Okay.
And then she's out in the woods, and the ghosts of all the dead children guts come out of the woods and just walk past her and then disappear.
and then her hands turn black.
Yeah,
Cut to black.
I do like how the witch's finger, just from the knuckle down to the fingers, are black. Like that
Looked
was a
good.
cool look.
super
Yeah.
cool.
Looked good.
Yeah.
Super cool.
This is a movie that would be great to just cut up as visuals for like a DJ night.
Yes.
Mm.
Oh, let's go to them sweet, sweet, succulent bones.
I can feel it in my bones.
Let's let the lodge mistress set the table
Oh
here.
my god. Well,
How many sweet meats do you give this?
You know, I mean, it was my genre, so
Definitely.
I'm always going to enjoy something that's in my genre.
You
It's
like things that
dark,
are a
it's
little
fairy tale.
boring.
It was boring, but I like a little boredom sometimes in my films. I like to see some trees blowing in the wind. And,
Got plenty of that.
Yeah, and the witch was really good. She was great. Like she knew what was up. I thought,
This movie kind of
Um,
delivered everything you asked for. It had
yeah, it
food.
had some good food. The food could have looked better. I thought
It was a little low light.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it was
could have looked a
definitely in
lot
shadow.
more delicious.
I
And
wanted more candles.
I will say though, for me, like it really set up how hunger can just really drive you mad. Like
Mm.
I felt the pain of hunger in this film.
I was hungry. Yeah.
And that really worked for me.
You should have used
But-
your A-list credit at the concession stand.
Yeah.
I mean, I should have. But I guess it's like 2 bones.
2 bones. She's just parting on it. 2 bones.
Yeah.
2 bones. Let's go to the BFF.
I liked his last movie, but it's clear that he's a very deliberate filmmaker, likes to
Mhm.
build things over slowly. But I think in the last film, certainly built towards something more interesting, more satisfying. The issue with this film, ultimately, it's incapable of creating momentum and doesn't know what to do when it has it, and so it's just, like I said, monotone. I'll give it a generous 2 bones.
Generous 2. That's a generous 2 from the BFF. And Gretel and Hansel, you better feel lucky that you got that generous 2. Brother Bishke, what say you? You had no interest in this.
I was not too interested. I was just along for the ride, whatever. Brothers Grimm, yeah, that's not my thing. But visually, I mean, I can forgive a lot in a movie, and if the visuals are hitting. And I think this film doesn't have many bad shots in it. It's just consistently visually, like, I think that's how he constructed it. Like,
Yeah.
plot wise,
He was like, "Oh, we have to have a plot."
kind of, yeah. And the less plot, the better with this kind of thing, and the less dialogue, the better. Because the
Yes.
dialogue
Agreed.
definitely knocked it down notches for me. But ultimately, visually, I liked it. I was oscillating between 2.5 and 3, but
Ooh.
I'll give it 2.5 bones.
Nice.
Yeah, I did enjoy myself. I got a little into that Mandy mindset. At times, it was a little trippy and a little Jodorowsky-esque and different things.
There's
so,
definitely a lot of Alejandro
yeah,
Jodorowsky
yeah. So
imagery. With
love
the
to
witch.
see weird movies at the AMC.
I love it.
And
AMC Artisan, baby.
This was a weird one.
Was this an artisan release?
It's got to be
It
Artisan.
has to be, right? I haven't verified it yet, but I'm sure.
Brother Lucas, you know them bones are coming for you.
Yeah, you know, I think I'm on the
Sharpen
same.
your blade on the bones of the dead.
I'm on the same wavelength as you all. Like, yeah, I really, really dug the visual grammar and the compositions. Yeah, very symmetrical, very well planned out and blocked, and I appreciated the economy and the efficiency of the editing, and that it was a short, taut 88 minutes. I mean, I love movies that are
But
like
was it
90,
taut?
90 and under. Well, there wasn't the story there was like, yeah, I mean, that's where it gets kind of like what the BFF is saying, you know, you need modulation, you need pacing, you need to like know how to traverse peaks and valleys as opposed to just having like a bunch of valleys and maybe a peak. But I wish I felt more. I wish I was more engaged. And yes, I did nod off because of my my couple cocktails at Islands and food beforehand, and the seats reclining too much, and it's been a long
It's
work
been
day.
a while.
It's middle of the week.
You stayed awake during Doolittle. That buys you like 3 sleepy times.
Thank you. So I'm gonna second what Brother Bishke just said. This is a 2-bone movie if I've ever seen one, but it's just so visually sumptuous, and the score so surreal. I got to give it 2.5.
All right.
I like that you're mixing sumptuous and scrumptious. It's sumptuous.
And surreal, scrumptious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to throw any curveballs at you. I think there's a moment where she has some milk and she's like, "Have some fresh milk. It's good for your bones." And I'm like, "You better be concerned about your own bones, lady," because I was at a 3 and them bones started to dwindle. They dwindled down. They dwindled down to 1.5 for a while. I was just getting mad. I wanted to check out and fully recline. I didn't go full recline. I left one notch because I wanted to give the movie that much respect to just tilt my head slightly enough to keep my eyes on it. And it went back up. I was interested in that climax. It reminded me a little bit of the Suspiria remake climax, where it's like there's so little that happens for so long that you've been conditioned to react much larger than you would when something finally does happen. So I bet that climax isn't that great, but comparatively to the rest of the action, I was on the edge of my seat. And it did look great. I would love to make a cut of this where we just slather more of that cool score on and drown out some of that VO and most of the dialogue. Like, we get it. We get what's going on. We get those sweet meats aren't all that they seem. And that salad dragon's worth it too. Oh my God. If you are a gore hound, and I know there's a lot of you out there, that's gonna scratch your itch. Like, that's an amazing scene. And I'm glad we saw it for that. It'd be really sad if this didn't even have a dragon in it, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm glad we saw it. It's definitely a funky early year dumping release. They don't really know what to do with it.
Orion Pictures, and what I appreciated,
Orion,
it
yes.
was the legitimate vintage 1988 Orion burn logo.
Amazing
like,
to
score. Even the visual res, the comp of it looked like it was from the 80s.
Yes.
Like, it was just low res.
I was wondering how many people in the audience that was like tickling their nostalgia bones.
And for our listeners who don't know Orion Pictures, they were a subsidiary of United Artists, and the last movie they made was The Silence of the Lambs, which they went out of business while it was in theaters. Like, that's how fucked up their history is.
If you don't know the Orion Pictures company logo, just YouTube Orion Pictures.
Watch the movie Prancer.
You'll know exactly what we're talking. It will hit you like a freight train. You'll be like, "Oh my god, Orion! Oh my
I
god!"
think the director pushed hard to get it on there, probably.
That's cool, and that's a sign of good taste.
Yeah.
Oz, aka Osgood Perkins, you're one to watch. But
yeah, I can't wait to see what he does with like a solid script.
yeah, somebody just give him a solid script.
Because Rob, Rob's a good composer, but
I liked when that credit came up, music by Rob, and there were so many people in the audience that were like, "Hey, Rob!"
I like that too.
Like that audience was looking for a good time, and they just got beguiled,
got mesmerized. How many bones did you give it, Lodge Master?
I gave it. Did I even register?
I didn't. I
don't
couldn't
know.
remember.
I don't know.
I settled it 2. It's a 2.
Okay.
It's a 2. Thanks for keeping me on track.
Okay. Yeah.
Right down the middle with Gretel and Hansel. BFF, thank you so much for
doing
being
this
on
last minute,
today.
yeah.
Hey, my
Thanks.
pleasure.
Thank you, BFF.
Hopefully we'll feed you some nutrients next time. That
we got to get him on for Dune. We have to have him on
oh,
for
are you a
Dune?
Dune man?
Of
I knew
course
Dune
I
was
am.
good.
Oh,
Who isn't?
Dune 2020.
We're gonna need you for that. So
We got a ways for that one.
look forward to it. And Lodge Mistress, as always,
Thank
we
you
love
very
we
much.
love
It
having
was
you
a
on.
pleasure.
Our own personal Gretel.
Well, hopefully we got some good movies coming up on the slate. Brother Bishke, is there anything on the horizon that looks like it's going to be good for our bones?
It's rough.
I can't wait to see Trolls.
Oh.
no. Oh, what have we done and what will we do? Stay tuned. Leave us a review on iTunes, y'all. I keep forgetting to say that.
Smash that subscribe button.
Smash that subscribe button. Leave us a review. Write a review. Just say like, "Hey, I listened to this. 5 stars." That's all we want. We just want to know you're out there. And again, SoundCloud Egyptian listeners, we see you.
We see you. We love you.
We love you.
Love and light.
Tune in on Spotify too. It's a great app.
Love and light to all y'all out there, and stay on the path.
You think that love is just a fairy tale? Maybe true love is sold and bought. Hansel and Gretel found their candy getting stale. You gonna find you ain't no Goldilocks. Oh, when them bells just keep ringing and that song you're singing. You want to share your Mondays right through to Sundays. Your best friend is softly speaking. She won't call this weekend. No way, it's only a fling you say. But love is real. Yes, it is, girl. Never let anyone tell you different. When you can feel love is real. Oh, my honey, never let anyone tell you different. When you can feel this feeling for real. Let me take you something, don't go away. Don't you stay. No, don't you wait. Don't you stay. Listen to me say.
I love my BFF.